This exercise basically works on rolls. I call it 1 and 1, 2 and 2s, just because we're going to play one count of check, one count of roll, and then 2 counts of check, 2 counts of roll. There's a lot of different exercises that are similar: hugga bugga burr, chicken in a roll, you name it. Essentially what I want to work on with this exercise, the essential technique that we're trying to teach here, is how to start taking your double strokes and developing, instead of a double stroke on your roll, a double bounce. For the beginner, essentially what I'm trying to do when I create a double bounce is I want to throw the stick onto the head, and I want to squeeze just enough on the fulcrum for the stick to bounce. Notice what I'm trying to do here is to get 2 sounds out of 1 stroke. So it's one throw, and then the other is a bounce. What you will not see is my wrist move twice. So if you look closely, and you might even have to like stop the video and do it frame by frame, what I'm doing there is I'm making 2 distinct strokes out of it, and that's what we were working on before. Now we want to make a stroke and a bounce. I'm really exaggerating. I don't actually play my rolls like this, but I'm exaggerating that there's 1 throw and 1 bounce. Here's an exercise I have my beginners do probably for 2 or 3 weeks just to get used to it. 4 quarter notes, 4 bounces. And we do that off the left hand, of course, because you have to get your right hand in your left hand. Typically, right-hand drummers are not as good at doing the fluid, relaxed bounce on the left hand as they are the right hand. So make sure that you're getting a nice, consistent bounce out of your left hand before you actually attempt this exercise. So once we've got that, okay, 1 stroke, 2 sounds out of each hand, we're going to move to this exercise 1 and 1s. So essentially what I'm doing here is playing a measure, or 1 count of check pattern, 16th notes, and 1 count of bounces, or rolls as they consider. Now what I'm going to do is keep my hands consistent in tempo. I want to make sure that I'm not going from here and trying to move faster when I start doing my bounces. I'm going to work with a metronome. I'll play this exercise at quarter note equals 70, so you can hear the tempo. So what we're trying to accomplish here is making relaxed strokes. There is really no difference between the stroke that I'm making from the check pattern to the roll. The speed is very consistent, which is why I practice with a metronome. Now, if you have rolls that sound like this, and I have this happen all the time to very beginner students that sound like this. You hear that all the time. Essentially what's happening with that is they're squeezing too tight with the fulcrum, or choking the stick with the back fingers. What we want to do is leave some space happening in the palm of the hand and the fingers, so that way the stick is allowed to bounce in between. The biggest concept that I have my beginners learn is that the amount of pressure that you put on your fulcrum in your hand will determine the space between your doubles. So if I squeeze really hard, I can get doubles that are very, very fast. If I don't squeeze hard and I relax that fulcrum, I can open up those doubles. So if you have your rolls sound like this, or if you have a student whose roll sounds like that, typically all you have to do is relax that fulcrum and relax the rolls. Now the reason why we work on double strokes in the previous 2 exercises is to lend a lot of quality of sound to the double bounces in this exercise. Essentially what you want to be able to do is play your double bounces slower than you can play double strokes. So if I can do these at double strokes, and I can play my double bounces that slow, then I can get that transition between those two, which if you're playing rudiments, like you're working on the long roll and you want to be able to go from slow to fast, there's a point where your double strokes have to turn into double bounces. So what we want to do is make sure that there's a place in there that transitions from the double to the double bounce. Now as I move the tempo up, again, I'm working with the metronome to maintain a consistency of tempo. For the beginner, take it at a slow level first and work up a consistent sound on all your bounces before you ever speed it up. But here's 120 beats a minute so you can see what this exercise sounds like. So you can see my sticks. Basically, I've got the same height of rise on my stick from the 16th check pattern to the roll. We definitely do not want check patterns that are up here and rolls that are down here. Everything consistently the same. You're going to have to, as you speed up, do different tempos. You're going to have to play with that adjustment of your fulcrum pressure to get exactly the right speed of your bounces. Now, you might hear my rolls and kind of think, you know, like my daughter thinks that it's a machine gun going off. The reason why I have a quality roll sound, and what I see a lot of high school students or even drum set players that don't have a quality roll sound, is because they never learned that double stroke technique that we did in the previous exercises. So take those previous exercises and work on those double strokes, and eventually, as you're playing a faster tempo, you can utilize some of those back fingers and some of the wrist motions in this exercise to where you can get better and better quality. A lot of times guys say it like you're playing into the drum head. That's just another term for making sure that every stroke is heard. So listen to the sound quality. Of what you're playing, and work on those double strokes first, and that will increase your roll quality.